Welcome to the Positively Healthy Mom podcast, where positive parenting meets well-being. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Positively Healthy Mom. I'm your host, Laura Ollinger, and I'm so excited to introduce you to my friend, Becca Kyle, who happens to be another mom at my kids' school who I know, but I have been fascinated from the moment I met you, Becca, because of your background and your education, and your title is just so cool. I wrote it down, Functional Diagnostic Nutrition Practitioner.
Yeah.
And I am so excited to officially meet with you today and podcast with you. So tell us, what is a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner?
Great question. It's a lot of words, isn't it? It really just describes the detective work behind what I do. I believe that there is a root cause for your symptoms, when it comes to health. So it could be fatigue, it could be pain, it could be bloating, it could be insomnia, anxiety, brain fog, whatever it may be, that the symptoms aren't the problem. They're the results of the problem. So what's the actual problem? And in traditional modern medicine, most of the time, it's really focused on that symptom management, diagnosing a disease or treating a disease with medication. I don't diagnose, I don't treat. What I do is I look for things like toxins, pathogens, nutrient deficiencies. Are you digesting and absorbing the food you eat? Because it's not you are what you eat, it's you are what you absorb. Do you have genetics that are playing a role in nutrient conversion? All of these things create what we call metabolic chaos in the body. Whereas one symptom over here might be actually driven by some dysfunction down here. And so it's about connecting dots. It's about finding puzzle pieces and understanding that everything in the body is connected, and that diet, lifestyle, rest, play, movement, sunlight, nature, stress reduction, all of these lifestyle components really make a huge difference on your symptoms and what's driving them. So you can kind of think of me like a little health detective. And I use functional lab work, think stool sample, urine sample, hair, saliva, sometimes blood, to really figure out what's driving your symptoms, right? Like, so your insomnia is not the problem. Like, what's going on? Do you have high cortisol? Do you have pathogens that love to party at night? Do you have mineral deficiencies, so where your nervous system's not like relaxing at night? Do you have an imbalanced sleep-wake cycle, right? So instead of saying, oh, I'm an insomniac, I guess I should try medication for that, it's, well, why are you not sleeping? Why is my favorite question. Why are you not sleeping? And we can assess those issues on lab work, and that's where kind of the magic happens. And then you also have to address people, body, mind, spirit. You can't just address the physical body, right? So, really thinking about, there's that saying, your biology becomes your biography. And, everything you've experienced in life, whether it's the food you ate or trauma or, the beautiful nature you saw in travels, or, good and bad, it creates your biology at the cellular level. And so it's a lot of fun. I'm a giant nerd, basically.
Me too.
Yeah. And so I work with clients all over the country. I work 100% virtually. So that's a lot of fun to get to work with women. I have clients in Canada. I've had a client in England and Switzerland and Antigua, so that's a lot of fun, just to get to work with all types of people, and really empower them, for a lifetime. It's not about a 3-month, 9-month, 12-month protocol. It's sometimes it's a short, intensive thing to really address some issues, but then it's, what do you do for a lifetime to, return to balance, to keep that balance? And so, yeah, I have a lot of fun with it.
Yes, I love it. And as you're describing it, well, first of all, I wanted to share, which I think you know about me, that my original background was functional medicine health coaching, which led me to the life coaching now. And I combine the two together for teenagers, because a lot of times, like those modifiable lifestyle factors that you're talking about, teenagers, you think they're so smart because they're almost like doing this really high level of like academic work at school. And in some ways they are, cognitively faster than an adult, right? Because they don't have a lot of the bog and fog, like slowing them down. in the other ways, they don't have that prefrontal cortex, so they don't necessarily have that rational decision making. And that is where a lot of times it's the obvious, where it feels like sometimes we're going back to like, oh my gosh, are you 2 years old? Are you 3 years old? Because they forget about sleep. They forget about they don't have the outdoor play like recess to like relax and let their body kind of shake the stress off like a dog does, right? And so sometimes when I'm working with a teenager, I some of the questions I have to ask are, when did you last eat? What did you what in the past 24 hours have you eaten? Like, how much sleep have you gotten? Like the basics. And so I think it's so important for the moms listening today, from both their own perspective as moms and taking care of their own health, and remembering that their teenagers sometimes forget to take care of themselves because they get busy. We all know that they're in their activities and their sports and working really hard to make great grades to plan for their future. And sometimes just that very basic daily care gets kind of thrown out the window. So how
Absolutely. I call it the low-hanging fruit.
Yeah, exactly. The low-hanging fruit, like the obvious, the basics, yes. But I love also what you're describing, because it almost reminds me of, I was thinking either like tree rings, you know how if you like see the tree rings, or like a rock formation where you can tell what was going on, millions of years ago based off the layers and what it was. And that's almost like you're the detective, and you can like figure out what's going on with a person based off of the testing that you do, and then identify any tweaks that need to be made so that people can feel better. Because the truth is, we don't have to feel bad. Like, we're moms.
No, we do
And
not.
you and I both have, now you have a rising freshman for high school, and I have several high schoolers. I've got a middle schooler, and we're at the age where we are really busy, but in a different way than when we had the little ones. But that doesn't mean we need to slow down in a bad way because of our body. So talk to me about kind of like the nervous system health, because I think for you that's an important topic, because as we go through our days, we are kind of like burning the candle at both ends, and we do have a lot of responsibility, and we do get stressed, and we do get overwhelmed. And so talk to us about that. Like, what is that process?
Yeah. So, the nervous system, it impacts everything. It impacts cognition, it impacts sleep, it impacts mood, it impacts gut health. And it's not a one-way arrow. It goes both ways. The gut impacts the nervous system impacts the gut, right? Same with hormones. When I have a female client who either just has a really difficult menstrual cycle, or maybe they're having a really crazy perimenopause, whatever, or maybe they're having infertility, right? So some things off. It's almost always one of the variables is the nervous system and being in fight or flight, which is, I call it stress mode. It's really fight, flight, or freeze. Well, technically it's fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. But
Yes.
now we're getting complicated.
That's that little, one that always
it's like
gets forgotten.
stress mode, or rest and digest, which is relaxation mode.
Mm-hmm.
So, the body even can't really tell the difference between a real stressor and a perceived stressor. So if you're someone that's always waiting for the other shoe to drop, or you're freaking out about the future or whatever, your body is going to almost react as if that thing has happened. So, when we think about positive thinking, right, that's really important. But so I like to put stress into 3 categories. So there's social, like emotional, relational stressors. When most people say, I'm so stressed out, that's usually what they're talking about, like a kid, a family member, a job, the world, the news, whatever's happening at the time. And then we have physical stressors. So that could be you sprain your ankle, you sit too much, your spine's out of alignment. My specialty is the biochemical stressors. So that could be toxins, pathogens, nutrient deficiencies, gut issues, high or low cortisol, all of that type of thing. And all of those can cause your stress bucket to overflow. So I get clients that are like, I don't feel that stressed out. Like I don't have a lot of emotional stressors. Well, then we do lab work and like, oh, but you have a parasite and you have mold and you have crazy environmental toxins and you're not digesting, absorbing your nutrients, right? So some people like me, I've had all 3 kinds of stressors. Some people kind of maybe fill their bucket up with one more or the other, but either way, when you are in stress mode, the body prioritizes survival over hormone balance, survival over digestion, survival over, short-term memory, because you're literally, trying to outrun that proverbial tiger of like, back in the day, right? And so addressing stress is wildly important and as far as all three types.
And
And
what, can I stop you for
yeah,
1 second?
absolutely.
Yeah, I got the social and relational stress, and then I got the physical stress, and you kind of lost me on the
Yeah.
third time.
So the biochemical. So that's the
Oh,
inner
that was
workings of
separate.
the
Okay.
body. So that's
Got it.
like, what's your nutrient status? What's your hormone balance? What are your neurotransmitters doing? What toxins do you have? What pathogens do you have? So that's what shows up on all the functional lab work,
Got it.
is that. And so, under times of stress, the body prioritizes cortisol, your stress hormone, instead of progesterone, which helps
Right.
with menstrual cycles and sleep and fertility and perimenopause, right? So
Hmm.
stress can have a direct impact on your hormones. In fact, if the body feels like it's not safe, it will literally say, oh, it's not a good time to make a baby. Now, maybe you're not wanting to make a baby, but what I'm talking about is hormones are for more than just making babies, but it'll
Yes.
it'll throw it off. And that's also your thyroid. Stress impacts your thyroid.
Mhm.
And your thyroid function impacts the clearance of cortisol. So everything here is connected. And then when we think about estrogen and testosterone, well, in your adrenal glands, part of your stress response system, that's where cortisol is made. That's also where DHEA is made, which is the counterbalance to cortisol.
Mhm.
DHEA is the parent hormone for estrogen and testosterone.
Mm,
So your adrenal function has a direct impact on your gut health, I mean, on your hormones and gut health. So high cortisol depletes your gut immune system. So if you're like, oh, I'm sick all the time, I'm getting virus after virus, or how my stomach is just messed up, I don't know what's going on. Well, chronically high cortisol can equal a weak gut immune system, and then you're catching everything under the sun.
mm,
Cortisol impacts sleep. It impacts, you can feel like you have like even sometimes like early onset Alzheimer's. You're like, I cannot retain a thought because of that stress response system in the body. So, the goal is to activate that rest and digest and, stay out of stress mode. Our bodies were designed to really deal with an acute stressor. So think, something bigger, like car accident or job loss or, something significant. And cortisol should rise to meet the need. It helps us be resilient in that moment. And then
right.
DHEA should rise to counterbalance that. Cortisol
Mhm.
is very catabolic, meaning it breaks the body down.
Mm,
DHEA is anabolic, it builds the body up. So like collegiate athletes can't supplement with it because it's very
mm,
building.
mhm.
And so then they both go back to normal, right? Rise, rise, go back to normal.
Yeah.
That's acute stressors. That's like a one time here and there situation.
Mhm.
Well, in our modern age, we all have those and we
Yeah.
have chronic stress, which
Mhm.
our bodies were not designed to have. And so over time, it causes our stress response system to just go out of balance. And then we're like, then any little thing, we're like, I've had this conversation with other moms. I'm just so irritable all the time. Like anything, make like if I hear the word mom one more time, right? Like it's because your stress response system is out of balance. And the kicker to this is the two things that get us out of stress mode and into relaxation mode. Two of the main most important things, that is, it's not the only two. One is rest and one is play. Our
Mm,
bodies force us to rest sometimes.
mhm. Mhm.
I've got to I can't, I'm not functioning right. I got to go lay down. I got to go to bed. I got to take a nap. Right.
Mhm.
But play is just as much, if not more important. So when we get in like stress mode, it's this kind of stress-based tunnel vision. We're like a racehorse with blinders on. We're
Mhm.
just duh, 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 right?
Yeah.
And we can't see simple solutions to our problems
Mhm.
because they're in our peripheral vision and we're just
Right.
going, 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 going. And the first thing to go, typically, when you get stressed out and exhausted and overwhelmed, is play. It's
Yeah.
it's whatever used to delight you, bring you joy, make you feel lit up inside. That was just fun. And it's the first thing to go. I don't have time for that. I don't have time for that. I'm stressed out. I'm overwhelmed. I'm busy, right? But it's the very thing that will get you out of stress mode. So when I have someone come to me in stress mode, when we're actively seeking out those biochemical stressors, we also
Mhm.
work on all of this other stuff because I consider that to be low hanging fruit, right? I'm like, go play. When is the last time you did something? Whether it's, reading, some fantasy fairy book that's so popular right now, Or,
Yeah.
maybe it's a dance party with the kids, or I used to paint all the time for fun. I'm terrible at painting like canvases, but I loved it at the time. It was soothing for me. Or maybe it's just getting outside and going on a hike, right? There's no wrong way to play. But
Right.
like I teach people to make a list like of low energy activities, medium energy activities, and high energy activities.
Hmm.
And so every day you should pick one. And they could be 10 minutes, it could be 5 minutes, it could be 2 hours, right? There's no right or wrong here. And
Hmm.
check in with yourself. It's kind of like when you can think of restaurants, you're like, oh, I want to eat there. I want to eat there. And someone's like, hey, where do you want to go eat? You're like, I don't know. I'm not sure. Right.
Yeah.
So when you're in stress mode, having that pre-written list is so helpful. You can check in with yourself in the morning and say, hey, what do I have? Do I have low energy? Do I have moderate energy? Do I have high energy? What would be a great de-stressor activity for me today that's just for fun? And it is
Mm-hmm.
wild to see how bringing black back in play positively impacts the nervous system so much. Do you see that
Mm.
on your end, that play kind of just goes?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. In fact, you're totally inspiring me to make sure get more play because yeah, I feel like the busier I get, that is the first thing that tends to go. And one of the other fun things about play with women is that a lot of times we do it as a social activity.
Yes.
So you're kind of combining two things together. Like I used to do a lot of tennis. I've had some injuries, so then I was doing a little bit of the pickleball, but now a
Mhm.
lot of people are doing mahjong. But whatever it is, whatever
Yep.
activity it is, a lot of times as women we do it together, which makes it
Yes.
even. Yeah, so you're kind of like checking two boxes there.
Yes.
But yeah, I love that concept. And I think honestly that I should even assign that for my teenage clients
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
well, because they do have their social life, but a lot of times the social life is actually adding to the stress and
Yes.
they're not. And so maybe just like adding that play gap category for
Yeah.
them is really important too.
Or a
So
lot of their social life is digital.
right.
So it's like, okay, when was the last time you went out away from the house, away from the phone, away from the Xbox, whatever it is,
Yeah.
right? And did something like physical, like get out and do something, kind of like
Yeah.
our childhoods. We didn't have the digital age, right? So we were outside, we were meeting people at the mall or the movies or something, right? Like, and
Yeah.
I feel like it's been really interesting to me to see with my 14-year-old over the last couple of years like the just like I don't he doesn't have this big drive to always like be with his buddies. Like when I was a teenager, it was like you are with your buddies all the time. Like that's what you do, that's what you wanted. But
Hmm.
now they're like group texting and group video gaming and I'm just it's been a weird thing for me to watch of like, huh, the social interaction is so different for teenagers these
Hmm.
days than it used to be.
Hmm.
But being in person with people it's just so important as far as like the true social interaction, I think.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I mean, I don't really even count the digital stuff as
Yeah.
social, even though, gaming, they're communicating or whatever. But yeah, it's
Yeah.
for me, it has to be like that physical interaction. And it does vary from one kid to another because I have two boys and one of them loves to be with his friends 24/7 and the other one's more of an introvert. So he likes to have a night or two off in the summer
Yeah.
where he's just home and chilling. So yeah, it can kind of vary. But yeah, the idea is that having those relationships and getting out doing the things is what's making them
Yeah.
healthy in so many ways. So
Well,
when
we
you
were not built for isolation. We
right.
were we were made for community. We were made for fellowship. But also when you get stressed out, you kind of start to isolate. Have you have
Yes.
you have you have you found that to be true? Like I'm like
Oh
so
yeah.
stressed. I'm like I call it hermiting. I'm like I'm hermiting. I'm realized I'm like I'm just this giant hermit right now. I don't want to talk to
Yeah.
anybody. I don't want to. But it's when you actually make a purposeful, strategic effort to get out of your hermitage that you're like, oh, I so needed that, right?
Yes, yes. And that's hard too, because I do have a couple teenage clients right now who that's what they're struggling with. Like it feels better for them to be in their room, but they know they should be out going out. So then that's like this vicious cycle of like when they're out, it's causing them a lot of stress and pressure and they want to get back to the room. But then when they're room, they want to go out and then
Yeah.
it's like they can't win. So it's kind of like we're just doing baby steps and
Yeah.
maybe like making these shorter connections instead of it being like, oh, let's spend 3 hours together.
Right.
Let's, make it a shorter, like quicker
Yeah.
thing. So
Absolutely.
back to the moms, because this is like I think so helpful for moms to have this awareness for both themselves and for their kids. So
Mhm.
just with the time that we have left, like what would be your top three tips? We've got the play. I think that one is like got it. That one's a winner.
Huge.
We'll put that one
Yes.
on the list. What are the other tips that you have?
As far as nervous system balancing goes, there's a couple what I would consider like mandatory low-hanging fruit. I mean, there's all kind we could talk about this for days, right? But as far as like what do I do with my clients when they come to me in stress mode? It's early morning sunlight. It's that there are certain spectrums of light in the sunrise that are incredibly healing for your nervous system and your hormones. And so that's without glasses, without contacts. That's literally getting outside for 10 minutes at a minimum. And the closer to sunrise, the better. And that also really, really supports sleep. So good quality sleep actually starts in the morning. So it's getting that early morning sunlight. So I get my weighted vest on and I go outside for a sunrise walk. Not every morning, but 3 or 4 mornings a week. And for me, it is so incredible how it impacts my mental health. I can be like the most stressed out. I wake up, I'm like, the kids and da 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 da. And I go out for that morning sunlight walk. I'm like, whew, I am like chill. I am calm. And the morning walk also checks the box of being out in nature or being outside. And not everyone wants to do a morning walk. You have to maybe get like nicely dressed and go to work, right? So you might want to get out to go have your breakfast or your cup of coffee on the porch, right? One of my biggest hacks is because I don't actually need my glasses to drive, so that's helpful. It's more like the close up. Is you can crack your windows on your way to work. Sunlight bounces, right? So if you have your hair nice and you don't want to mess it up, crank up that AC, especially if you're in Texas right now, and crack your windows an inch, and that sunlight's going to bounce. So that's like a little hack. And then, so early morning sunlight, if you can combine it with a walk, phenomenal. Eating breakfast within 60 minutes of waking. So fasting's all the rage, right? For women, especially midlife women, eating breakfast within 60 minutes of waking is one of the most important ways you can teach your body that it is safe. And so again, it's about balancing out that stress response, balancing out that nervous system. And it should ideally be a protein, fat, and fiber focused breakfast. A smoothie with like bananas and mango and, a few almonds sprinkled in is going to like completely trash your blood sugar. And so protein, fat, and fiber focused within 60 minutes of waking. For my clients that were like waiting 2 hours to eat breakfast and drinking coffee and on an empty stomach, they would have these massive energy crashes in the afternoon and they would be anxious. And eating breakfast, game changer. Energy picks up. The mood balances. It is wild how something so simple can be so effective. And I've heard it be like, this just feels too easy. I'm like, it shouldn't be hard. Not everything about health should be hard, but I hear it, that just feels too easy. And then 2 weeks later, they're like, I feel so much better. I'm like, I know. That's why you can't out supplement lack of sunlight. You can't out supplement, lack of nature and lack of play. It's like we have to, and supplements have a time and place, absolutely. But like we have to like get on board with some of these other things. So the morning sunlight, movement, ideally outside would be great. Eating a protein, fat, and fiber breakfast, and then protecting your sleep like your life depends upon it. There are certain hours of sleep that are the main hours of healing for your nervous system and your adrenals. So that's 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. So if you are one of those moms who are like, 10 to midnight's the only time I get for myself to decompress, to do this, to do that, and you're missing out on 10 p.m. to midnight, you are missing out on 2 incredibly healing hours of sleep for your nervous system. And so you don't have to jump from midnight to 10 overnight, inch it up 10 minutes, at a time. And maybe it's not every night, maybe it's 5 nights a week. You want to go out with your girlfriends on a Friday night. I totally get that. But if you are not sleeping, you are not healing. Period. End of story. And then the beautiful thing about that early morning sunlight, it's going to help you get better sleep. Right. So, those are kind of my like initial 4 steps beyond just like the rest of the play, which is also so important. I can't hear you.
Am I with
Yeah,
you?
there we are. You're back.
Yeah. So for my regular listeners, they know that I cannot stop talking about the book, Why We Sleep by Dr. Matthew Walker. I feel like I'm talking about it all the time, but that's such an important lesson that most of us overlook the importance of sleep. So I love that. So thank you for your recap. So play was kind of like the big one. And then we did the morning walk if we can, or at least sunlight, 10 minutes, eating the breakfast, protein, fat, and fiber, and then the sleep. So those are fantastic. And I encourage people to just maybe even keep a little log or a
Yeah.
journal of those things and like see how much they impact. Okay, last question before we go. What would be that example of the protein, fat, and fiber? Because we
Oh
said,
yeah,
but
absolutely.
not
So, I like breakfast scrambles. So that could be, if you do eggs, it could be, eggs with some like chicken sausage chopped with avocado, right? Like that'd be perfect. It could be a like a protein shake or a smoothie. Just don't fill it up with like sugar, like a ton of like super like five types of sugary fruit, right? Because blood sugar imbalance is one of the biggest biochemical stressors. So
mm,
stabilizing your blood sugar first thing in the morning, super, super helpful there. You can do like overnight chia seed pudding. That's
mm,
a great one. So it doesn't have to take like a super long time. You can batch cook certain things. But so think a protein could be, if you eat meat, it could be some sort of, sausage, or I don't do a lot of bacon. My favorite actual breakfast, because I am weird and I don't care about putting foods in a box, like a breakfast food.
yeah.
I'll batch cook like grass-fed hamburger patties. And then I'll top it with some sliced avocado and have some berries. And it literally, so the berries has got the fiber, some phytonutrients, avocado's got that healthy fat and fiber, and then of course we have the protein and some healthy fats in the grass-fed beef, right? And it keeps me going all morning long, right? So if you
Mm,
start your day with protein, fat, and fiber, it's going to stabilize your blood sugar, your mood, your energy levels. If you start your day off with like super high carb, it's gonna cause those fluctuations and cause a lot of problems, downstream. And I'm not like anti-carb. Women need carbs for our stress response. We need carbs for our hormones, but it's like about kind of biohacking your day. When do you put those carbs in and starting your day just like and the berries have carbs. It's not like it's like totally carnivore or something.
yeah.
But think and like oatmeal, garbage. Throw it
Mm,
out. Like when I hear someone eating oatmeal, like you are just destroying your blood sugar and your hormones by eating oatmeal. So something like oatmeal or cereal or like a super fruit forward smoothie with no protein to balance out, right? Like I was talking to a client or a new client the other day. I was like, "What are you eating for breakfast?" She's like, "A smoothie." I'm like, "What do you put in your smoothie?" She's like, "Berries and banana and spinach." And I was like, okay. So there's no protein in there.
yeah.
There's no healthy fats, which also keep you satiated and keep your blood sugar balanced. It slows the absorption of that carbohydrate intake, and you're just completely wrecking your blood sugar with that, right? So, and I love fruit. Fruit's great, but again, we got to place it in the right spot.
Okay. That was awesome. Okay. Thank you for filling in that missing. I was
Yeah,
like, the missing piece is what's your recommendation on that?
absolutely.
I love it. Okay. Well, where can people find you going forward if they want to get more information from you?
Yeah, so my brand is Holistic Obsession. So you can go to holisticobsession.com. I realized when I was trying to create my brand years ago, I'm always percolating, I'm simmering, and I was like, when I was standing in my kitchen, I talked to myself all the time. I was like, man, Becca, you are obsessed. And I thought, oh, that's it. So I am obsessed. I'm so fascinated by all of this stuff. And so there are buttons all over my website that says book a free connection call. I love free connection calls because they're just a chance for my clients or potential clients, people, to feel safe, seen, heard, and valued in the wellness world, sometimes for the first time. So
Mm,
it's a chance to tell your story, have a conversation about your health goals, your health challenges, what you've tried that hasn't worked, and how I might be able to help. And you always walk away from that feeling heard, feeling believed, which happens. A lot of women come in, it's like, nobody believes me. They say it's all in my head. I'm like, I believe you. It's not all in your head, and we're going to find answers, right? So if you're interested in just having a chat, book that free connection call at holisticobsession.com.
awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Becca. I
Absolutely.
appreciate it. And this was such a great conversation.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
All right. Take care.